Hi, everybody. A lot of news. Sorry, we're coming on late again. It always seems this time. Um, we are burning the midnight oil because that's what it takes. That's what it takes. We are absolutely in a battle for our communities, for our faith against the powers of darkness. And the thing is, um, when you wield your power of faith, the darkness has no chance, right? The darkness has no chance. So that's what we've been doing. And it's been really a miracle after a miracle after a miracle these 5.5 years, because what they did to our son, what they did to our family was so bad and put us at such a it was a code red. It was an internal attack, an internal killing. And they didn't notify us, right? They didn't notify us, and they stole our son's body. They trafficked his body across the border to tear it apart, to dismember it. All evidence indicates that his organs were harvested. They had this very brutal network in place. Um, and that's what we're going to talk about today, because he was forcibly removed from his barracks room because he was a whistleblower. And he's a big deal, y'all. Richard is a very, very, very big deal in all of this. And if you've been following for all these years, you will know that we came to that realization because of the level of interference in our son's, the level of involvement and interference in our son's investigation, and the cover up, right? And the fear of those that knew something but um, feared for their life. And Richard told us he feared for his life. So, and it was all the COVID time, and everything was so absolutely insane. And they took advantage of that. So let's get started today. Thank you for coming on so late. And we have no time to sleep, do we? We have no time to sleep. We have to be on this all the time. And we just want to thank everybody for following us, for sharing, because we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And we can't depend on our tax uh, tax funded tax funded system, can we? We just can't. They have absolutely breached our national security, breached our trust, and have exploited us. And so it takes the people. It takes the people, and we are in this system, so we have to drive the system to work, to do what it's supposed to do. And that means we have to be vigilant. And so we're very vigilant and active. Vigilant and active. To pray is to do is to pray. So we are very, very grateful for all of the sharing, all of the comments, all of the support that we have gotten. One of the latest, and I mentioned it last night, latest helps that we have gotten is somebody that speaks Spanish translated our videos into Spanish, made memes, just translated them into Spanish, and our articles into Spanish. And we are so grateful for that. We didn't ask for that. Of course, I say, please share, share. And so share in your language. If you're watching from, I know we have people from Germany, people in Ireland, people in Korea, people in South Africa. I've gotten messages from around the world. of support. So please, um, please share this information, because the Jeffrey Epstein, John of God pipeline is international. Richard's case, from the very beginning, it has been international. And so today we have really breaking news that I'm going to explain to you. Now, this is, very sudden. It's breaking news that El Mencho was captured and killed by Mexican special forces that was led by the USA. And this is all very new information, so I can just give you, and I'm speaking from my heart. I don't have any notes in front of me. I'm just speaking to you from what we've heard on this. And so tomorrow maybe I'll have my head around this better, but it is huge. It's really, really huge. And El Mencho is CGNG cartel, the new generation Jalisco. They are a very, very brutal, probably the most brutal cartel of them all. Okay, they are really, um, they're pretty evil. They're very evil. They are very evil. And in this whole information coming out that Gabriella warned us about, 17 years ago, about, they're eating humans, right? This is a very, very brutal um, cartel. And so there was no holding back, was there? They traffic the worst kind of things. They take advantage of, uh, you know, so many of us. They're scammers, they're fraudsters, they are absolutely manipulators, and they do a lot, and they're brutal, and they're brutal. They want their way. They want to have their way, right? They want to have their way with us, and it's an evil way, a very, very evil way, a very, very dark way. And of course, they are traffickers. They are huge traffickers. And so El Mencho was the leader of the CJNG. And of course, don't forget that in our son's case, it's a very important. La Diabla was also arrested. She was conducting illegal C-sections, training 16, 17-year-old girls to conduct illegal C-sections as they were targeting young women in pregnancy crisis mode, promising them jobs or a place or a cheap C-section, and they would absolutely they would absolutely take the baby and also harvest organs. And many of these young ladies never saw a job or any life. They didn't see life. And many of these babies, if they survived, because these are very gruesome C-sections, they would be um, given adopted illegally on the black market, specifically targeting, and this is not me, this is the reports, the homosexual community. So, gosh, it was a very good day when she was arrested. And you have to know this. Her family was employed by Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke is very deep in this, okay? If you're in El Paso, you absolutely know who Beto O'Rourke is. Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law, Bill Sanders, bought a ranch right above Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, right outside of Santa Fe. And this all has to do with the El Mencho. This directly targets the trafficking there in Santa Fe, and Bill Sanders bought a ranch right above Zorro Ranch at the same time that Jeffrey Epstein bought his ranch. Okay, just about at the same time, and they sold it the same year after decades of being very cozy neighbors. And don't forget, their other neighbor was Cesar Duarte, the former governor of Chihuahua, Mexico. And this is a pipeline, and that pipeline went down to John of God, um, where he was doing the worst type of things, baby farming, um, hundreds and hundreds of women, um, um, the worst crimes against them. And Oprah, Oprah was promoting him, okay, really promoting him in the media. And of course, Oprah is very chubby with Beto O'Rourke, and has a home in Santa Fe in that area. And of course, being from Chicago, and Bill Sanders being from Chicago, and Obama being from Chicago. And, I'm not trying to pick on, like one side or the other, blue side or red side or whatever. I'm just telling you the facts here, because when it comes to Mencho and the CJNG, they are in El Paso, and the FBI absolutely knows who they are. And we know who they are also. And they are everywhere. They touch everybody's life in El Paso, Texas. Okay. They're very infiltrated in El Paso. And they are absolutely, donors to so many politicians, including Beto O'Rourke, including city council candidates, and also Tony Gonzalez, and also Governor Abbott. So I'm not trying to take sides. I'm telling you what we know. And and so there are, I think this is going to bring us together, right? People that are don't want the trafficking, don't want the brutality, don't want the drugs that have the F that kills, right? And we know that cocaine plays a big part in all of this. It plays a very big part, and um, and they're just everywhere. They're in the hospitals, but of course, they're in the hospitals, aren't they? And they're in the sports venues, and they are in the politics, and in the judicial and law enforcement. They are absolutely everywhere, and they're operating outside of the law. Okay, this and their relationships are absolutely connected to our son's investigation and case. This is why this is so personal to us. Okay, El Mencho being captured and killed is a really very personal thing to us. It is absolutely President Trump keeping his promises. Remember, we received two letters from him. One was his intentions, the other one was a condolence, and also the acknowledgement that our son is a national hero, is courageous, is a name that's indelible, and that he is deserving of all honor and respect from people. And it's just a beautiful letter. It's behind me. Beautiful letter. But the other letter was, what is his intentions against those that did this to Richard? and he would never send those letters unless he knew everything already, y'all. That's how these politicians work. They absolutely know everything before they send you these things. And um, so this is all in the works. This is, like I've been saying, the vicious negotiations for the repatriation of our son's remains. Okay. And I can say that again. This is the vicious negotiations for the repatriation of our son's remains. Because remember, the Mormon faction, El Paso cartel, are absolutely in alliance with CGNG. Okay. Those that are in El Paso already infiltrated, dug in really deep in El Paso already. And the FBI knows who they are, right? And this is a huge blow. El Mencho is a huge blow to the CJNG. Okay. And it really signals a huge change. And we'll know more in the coming days. But this was absolutely a U.S. Led operation with the Mexican Special Forces. We have gotten intel that the Navy SEALs are in Mexico with the DEA, that the DEA is in Mexico. And we also know, uh, um, breaking news, that the head of Tomas, which is a group of Tomas, and I'm doing this all by memory, who is a oil and gas delivery conglomerate, huge conglomerate. Was He's still alive, but he was shot. The director of that huge conglomerate was shot in his head, lost an eye, and of course he had his car that he was in was registered in California, which, goes to everything else that we're saying, that Carlos Manuel Salas, the prosecutor for the North Zone of Chihuahua, which is, um, or the North Zone for Juarez, um, who's in charge of this Plenitude crematorium, is breaking the laws, violating the laws by having a residence in El Paso in the United States when the Mexican law forbids that. He's breaking his residency violation or rules too. Um, it's the same thing. They all want to live. Ariano Caron family, the Purchase Ariano Caron family, they live in the United States. All these people, Cesar Duarte, like, what is it, 14, maybe 20 homes in the El Paso, and then that's not including what's in New Mexico. So yeah, they are all wanting all the benefits of the United States, but not wanting to love the United States. Okay. They are just bringing a hellhole, they're just bringing their hell, they're trafficking this pipeline, aligning with really evildoers like Jeffrey Epstein, who, um, that trilateral commission. Um, and that's something um, that people have to understand, is that Jeffrey Epstein was a financier, and he was invited to be the financier for the Trilateral Commission, the groups of billionaire business people like the Rockefellers. And um, so that's the level that he was at, and that's the intel that he was getting, and that's why former Prince, what's his name again, Andrew, uh why he is in so much trouble. I mean, they are in England. The headlines are treason. That's what the headlines are, because um, former Prince Andrew was giving, within minutes, as soon as he got information, top secret information on um, British, Great Britain's finances or investments or laws or whatever, he would give them to Jeffrey Epstein. And so this is why. And then the headlines are talking that the king knew, he was warned. And we know that President Trump went and visited them, and he was very gracious, and I'm sure that he warned them. Um, so to have those kind of treason headlines is just jaw dropping. It's just never it's just, I don't think it's happened in their history, which is a long history. And this is what's happening with CJNG, with Mencho. Their leader just lost their head. That's what just happened. And it's going to be a huge shakeup, a huge. And then to have Grupo Tomas, which is about the fuel, right? The fuel, and we know that Cesar Paneche, the former AG of Chihuahua, and you have to remember that Cesar Paneche is from Mexico City, and he was recommended to come to Chihuahua by Woody Hunt, by Paul Foster, by Alejandro de la Vega. They're the ones that got Cesar Paneche that position as the prosecutor for Chihuahua, the big guy for Chihuahua, the AG, and he's co-owner with Grupo Carvel, and now accused of the siphoning of Pemex fuel, and then using that and selling that back to the Maru Campos administration. Um, and she knew about it, right? And she knew about it. So, that's a huge deal. And so that's why this group of Tomas is a big deal, but because they all work together in the Chihuahua fuel industry, or fuel uh, area, right? The word will come to me. And who else is in there? Well, you have Paul Foster. He's the big fuel billionaire, right? And also you have the Plenitude narco crematorium owner, Raphael, and I want to put Purchase in there because his mother is Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Caron Ramirez. And I think that is very, very important because of this funeral home fraud. And everyone knows the Purchase name in El Paso, okay, because they are absolutely have control over the funeral home industry there. And the owners of the Plenitude Crematorium share an address, a business address with El Paso Matters, Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, that exists exclusively for the benefit of El Paso Community Foundation, which is Woody Hunt. And that they're all into the fuel too. But what business did they share with that address? And that was the Argo um, oil and gas business. So uh, the owners of the Plenitude Narco Crematorium, where evidence indicates our son's remains um, were disposed of there, um, has an oil and gas business at the same address as essentially the El Paso Community Foundation, Woody Hunt, which is, his they have so much partnering with Paul Foster. And so this group of Tomas attack with the Mencho attack with all of this new information surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein, what they're all doing. It's all business financing, right? Financier and investing in all of this, and then he's conducting his eternal life Ponzi scheme, and then compromising everybody that he's getting into the scheme, because if they ever get tired of the scheme, he doesn't want them to come back at him, right? So he's compromising them. It's the same thing that was going on Fort Bliss. They were compromising our soldiers so that they wouldn't become whistleblowers and report on the trafficking and all the things that were going on Fort Bliss. And Richard did not allow that, right? He stayed stellar. He stayed sparkling clean. And they tried everything they could to put out false stories about him and retaliate against him and entrap him, and, just to make him not reliable, right? Quote unquote, not reliable source. But they failed. They failed in every respect. And so if you see a Bob Moore story out there, just think of Plenitude Crematorium owners and Argo Oil and Gas, and you'll know why that they don't like Richard, because Richard was the whistleblower. He is a big deal, y'all. He is such a big deal, and he was always a big deal to me. He was always he's my baby, he's my youngest one, and he was always a big deal to me. But to the cartel, to the Mormon faction, El Paso cartel, to the Jeffrey Epstein, John of God pipeline, to the, I would say, Trilateral Commission, Richard was the thorn in their side. He was the soldier that was a reliable source and willing to report on their criminal activities that uh, were so criminal, it was a hellhole. Okay, it was what Gabriella was warning us about, and that their stench was gave them away, right? Their stench gave them away. So this is huge breaking news, all of it coming out together, and they must pay a lot of money to keep that fake stuff up. But we just appreciate everyone coming. We've had such great response, and we are earning your trust by staying very vigilant on the news um, and contacting all of our sources and being contacted by the sources, and to give you um, the best news that we could possibly get you, and tie all these dots together. We're not monetized. We don't get paid any money. We don't have any donors. We don't have nothing. We want our son's remains. And we are telling you right now that the last 21 days has been absolutely what President Trump told us that was on the agenda in August when we got the first letter. So, August of 2025. Okay. So he is, promises made, promises kept is one of his slogans for his campaign. I think he's living up to that. And when you see, have questions, why is this not happening? Think about the CJNG and their infiltration into the hospitals, into the schools, into uh, the workings of our communities, our government, our judicial. Yeah. Um, be sure to realize that we have been infiltrated by a very brutal cartel. And so um, this has been a great day because well, let's see how they reacted, because this is such a big deal that, and I'll turn it on here, that they reacted uh, in their brutality, in their brutality. They were. This is a beautiful area of Mexico, and they absolutely were torching, blocking roads, setting cars on fire. Look, just because Mencho was such a huge cartel leader, kingpin. So he took the place of El Chapo. Not so much he took the place of, but he kind of rose to power. And remember that Chihuahua is led by the Pan Party, which is the Chapitos faction of the Sinaloa cartel, which, and the Chapitos are the El Chapo faction of that.
Encontramos a una bebé vida. Su mamá está.
I didn't want to put that up there. Okay. I did have a picture here of, this is, see if I can move it over just a little bit. This is a house back here. There's a doorway right here that you can't see. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe I'll move it a little bit more. But this is the Plenitude Crematorium there in Juarez. This is during the raid, where they, over 400 bodies. After this raid, they went back and they were digging in this area here, and they found more. They found more concealed remains. So they had to have a big old truck. It was just, it's a humanitarian crisis. It's sacrilege. Yeah. And this judge, of the owner was arrested. One of the owners, a brother, right? Jose Luis. And he, my goodness, he got let out on a bond and ran over to El Paso. Let's see if I can, here's El Mencho. Yeah. He's pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. Okay, very brutal. I'm always too nice. I am always too nice. Because these people are very brutal. Here's a beautiful Gabriela Jimenez. And we don't know where she is. They took her. And they, were saying, oh, she has a mental health problem. And no, she was mentally absolutely right on target when you are facing that kind of evil. And I remember going to the first meeting and telling 15 plus agencies, including the FBI and CID and the El Paso police and the Rangers and the Marshals and the ATF and DEA, everyone was there, the military, the Mexican military and all of that, and telling them that we were being retaliated against, and these people had access to CID files and everything. And I want to tell you, the CJNG has access to our federal databases. They can look up. We've been reporting this, and we filed this, that they absolutely have free access, where we have to ask for a FOIA, right? They don't have to do that. They go right in and they have access to see who's whistleblowing, who's the witnesses, who's the judges, who's investigating cases. They have access and it's not redacted. Okay. So this is a really, when I say infiltrated, I mean infiltrated. And of course, we know that Connell Wetton, the assistant special agent in charge there in the FBI, he is compromised. He is absolutely so compromised. I don't care who says, oh, I thought he was a nice guy. They all pretend to be nice and then they're totally, absolutely evil and they give identity details of our son to the cartel and put a target on our son's back. That's not a nice guy. And I don't care if you do it with a smile or whatever, it's not a nice guy. So these people are deceivers. They operate in deception and they might donate to something like the CJNG there in El Paso. They donate, y'all. They donate a lot and they fund candidates and everything. And but don't be fooled. They have no good intentions, no good intentions at all. And look, they gave us this. They gave me this, right? They targeted me. They gave me this at that November 2020 meeting. I kept it. And it's very interesting who's on that board. It's very interesting, who's on that board. I don't know. I have to ask to see if I can reveal the names because it's counterintelligence, right? They don't mean us any good by saying, "Oh, call for a counselor for your mental health." Yeah, right. Um, and I knew better then because of my very, very good friend. But yeah, thank God for good friends, right? For true good friends. Thank God. So yeah, this is just, I hope you read it, and then pray, take a walk, clean your soul because it's just so heartbreaking and so evil. And here is the Samuel says, oh, how do you, well, read Cisneros. Oh, Cisneros. Oh, it is 1 o'clock in the morning here, y'all. Give me a break. And I know when I wake up in the morning, I'll be able to say it. But Grupo Tomas, Chula Vista, that's interesting. That's where Dallas Hart went when things got too hot in El Paso. I think he's back now, but he went to Chula Vista. I think that's where he went, right? He is the prime suspect in our son's prime suspect in our son's case. So, yeah, this is please share this, and it is interesting. It's all interesting. So, okay, let me answer any questions. How did he find out? How did he find out? What? Please give me some context because I probably looked a little bit too late at your comment and I've lost the context. How did he find out? So, yeah, it's one thing that I've said over and over again is that I was born at White Sands. I went to school in El Paso. And we have connections. My parents belonged to the German American Club there for years. Um, so we find out things, and we're very grateful for that. Just like we knew, and we broke the news. We broke the news that I think so that Jose Luis was spotted in El Paso right after he got the bond by the corrupt judge. And he's the owner, one of the owners. It's the family, the Arellano Caron, the Purchase Arellano Caron family, that owns Plenitude Crematorium, and we broke that news. So, um, yeah, we are absolutely connected to El Paso, to White Sands, um, which is New Mexico, right? And and we're very, very grateful because that has really helped us to move forward, to bring leads to, we were told that they couldn't investigate, that we had to investigate, and we had to bring them leads or they couldn't do anything for us in Richard's case. And um, yeah, we've been doing this for over 5.5 years. So it's what we found out is pretty heartbreaking, very heartbreaking, and that we need the people. We need the people to support us and to back us up, because we've been infiltrated. So, and I can tell you this, that today was a good sign because, you always question things, and um, it was a very good sign. And President Trump is serious. He's serious. He is dismantling the cartel. He's dismantling it. And that's not an easy task. And that is the vicious negotiation for the repatriation of our son, a very big deal, and a U.S. Army soldier that they trafficked to a foreign country. Okay, that's what they did after they took his life on Fort Bliss. So thank you, everyone. This is serious, and I'm just so happy that you came on so late. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.